Welcome and thank you for watching this short video about using club benchmarking as a tool for strategic budgeting. My name is Russ Condi and I'm the COO and co-founder of Club Benchmarking. Club Benchmarking is an online platform allowing any club to tap into a large set of industry data and best practices. The CB database currently contains data from more than 1,000 clubs. Clubs can filter the database and run a wide range of reports showing key performance indicators for clubs around the industry. CB is really a business intelligence tool and is very useful during the budget process or any time of the year that questions come up or data is required for critical decisions. The use of industry data is the core component to strategic budgeting. Understanding and using CB's proven models, ratios, and measures is essential in establishing a realistic budget that sets the club in the right direction for the coming year. The budget process can be challenging and is often redundant in that the same issues and questions seem to come up year after year. But there never seems to be any better answers or information available to help. Typical questions like, is our dues level and dues revenue appropriate? Should we make money in F&B? Are we spending too much or too little on the course? Are we funding our capital adequately? Actually, that question probably doesn't get asked often enough. And on. You all know the questions that come up year over year. Having a reference point for budgeting improves the process and the results. If you could formulate and show justification for your budget decisions based on the combined experience of both your club and other clubs, you can improve the process and align the budget with the strategy of your club. Here's where strategic budgeting really starts to become useful. It helps you understand your actual true cash drivers and ensures that your club is firing on all possible cash generation cylinders. That operational cash is the lifeblood of your club. For most clubs, there are really only two sources of operational or available cash: member dues and golf operations from things like greens fees and cart fees. Understanding that there are only a couple knobs you have to turn to impact the operational cash to help you run the club is really an important step in understanding the business model of the private club. This is where strategic benchmarking becomes really powerful. We've been studying industry data very closely over the last several years, and what that data has shown us is that clubs actually allocate their operational cash in a very uniform and consistent proportionality. When you think about it, this actually makes sense, since clubs have the same set of functions that need to be funded. The scale of those functions, of course, varies from club to club, but there is a natural balance point in terms of how much a club can afford to allocate on any one particular function. The fact that there is a common percentage distribution across both club size and geography actually presents a tremendous opportunity to use this collective knowledge for your club. For example, it's clear there is no right number for course maintenance. Not dollars per hole, not dollars per acre, not based on the type of grass you have or where your club is. We have clubs in the database that spend $500,000 on 18 holes and clubs that spend $2.8 million on 18 holes. The course maintenance spend of a club is actually based on how much that club can afford to spend. Typically, that's in the range of 30 to 35% of its available cash. There is variation from club to club, but that's usually for things like the amount of focus that a club puts on golf only versus tennis, aquatics, fitness, things like that. Setting your budgets proportionally rather than strictly on dollar amounts helps control the efficiency of each department while ensuring the overall business model of the club stays in a sustainable balance. Now let's talk a little bit about food and beverage. Budgeting around F&B is often a heated issue and is probably either your favorite or most hated topic. From our perspective, clubs place way too much emphasis on the finances of food and beverage. We know that 75% of clubs in the industry lose money on F&B, yet for some reason, the chase for profit always seems to be there. We very strongly believe that viewing F&B within the context of strategic budgeting yields both insight and relief to general managers and board members alike. Looking at this chart, we can see that most clubs, as I said, lose money in food and beverage, and that at the median, clubs consume about 3% of their available cash to subsidize the food and beverage loss. You can see a few clubs do make money in food and beverage, but generally it only turns into a few percentage points of available cash. And you can also see that some clubs consume a fair amount of their available cash, to subsidize a food and beverage loss. Now, quite often, these are the very large clubs that have very high service expectations, and they have it built into their business model to lose significant amounts of money in food and beverage because they have an extremely powerful dues engine. So, budgeting food and beverage through the lens of available cash and strategic benchmarking is a great way to keep food and beverage in its proper financial context within the club. This next chart shows total payroll as a percentage of operating revenue. This is a very consistent metric within the industry. 50% of the clubs in the industry fall between 49% and 59%. And this ratio has a very strong correlation to the net operating result of the club. Clubs that have ratios up in the upper quartile, above 59% on the chart, tend to burn significant amounts of operational cash at the end of the year. Clubs that are in the lower quartile generally generate a significant operating surplus, and clubs in the middle are at various degrees of plus or minus break even. So understanding and using labor ratios is another very effective tool in strategic budgeting. The fact that you can tap into the entire industry and see how your ratio compares is very powerful. You can just imagine a discussion in the boardroom around, we spend too much on labor, we spend too little on labor. Well, now you can say, okay, we're going to spend 53% of our operating revenue on labor, or 57%, or pick and measure the number and actually have an understanding about the relevance and the validity of that number. Of course, strategic budgeting also needs to factor in capital needs. Too many clubs pay too little attention to capital and often commingle capital and operating funds. Strategic budgeting shows you what similar clubs generate for capital uses or debt reduction, and where those funds come from, such as operational surplus, initiation fees, capital dues, assessments, etc. Neglecting to factor capital income and expenditures into your budgeting process will surely come back to haunt you. And just to reiterate, strategic budgeting demands that you separate your sources and uses of operating funds from your sources and uses of capital funds. On a side note, I strongly believe that clubs should have a specific component of their member dues designated as capital dues, and that part of the dues be earmarked for capital projects only. So, in conclusion, strategic budgeting using club benchmarking provides you with far greater intelligence about setting realistic and sustainable budgets. Whether you're trying to set the course budget, plan around F&B, decide how much should be going towards healthcare for employees, it's very powerful to tap into the industry set of data and be able to filter it in such a way that lets you look at clubs that are similar to yours. And last but not least, strategic budgeting can actually be an alignment process for your club. The confidence and justification that comes from knowing versus thinking you know helps you communicate and align with all parties, whether it's the board, committees, management staff, or the overall membership of the club. I hope this information has been useful. We've really only scratched the surface, but I'm happy to help anyone who would like to learn a little bit more. They can certainly reach me via email or phone. I would be happy to schedule an online meeting with anyone who is not already a club benchmarking member and show you how the mechanics of club benchmarking works and how other clubs use it. As a little thank you for watching this video, there's a coupon code noted on the screen. Feel free to use that coupon code and you'll save money off of your club benchmarking subscription. Thanks again for watching.